What are you at? It's Paul from Wicked Acorn, and today in history is George Saul Mottershead's birthday, and he's the guy that started the Chester Zoo. So right here next to St. Paul's and Springfield Elementary School is this giraffe, and it was part of the celebrations for the unveiling of a blue plaque for George Mottershead several years ago. And this girl was in Stanley Square and disappeared, and I often wondered where it went. So we've located it. It's here alongside the canal, or in the I don't know if it's in the church gardens or the school gardens or both, but it's here, and I can't remember its name. I think it's a girl. I don't remember. But if you remember the name, leave it in the comments. I can look it up, but there's no fun in that. If nobody remembers the name and puts it in the comments, I'll put it in the comments. This is Chester Zoo. It's considered to be one of the best zoos in the world. Even the animals think so. It opened on the 10th of June, 1931. We take it a bit for granted today, but 100 years ago, zoos didn't look like this. Zoos were nothing more than cages with hard floors and iron bars, sometimes only big enough for the poor animal to turn around. George Mottershead was not only the founder of the Chester Zoo, he actually built some of what you see with his own two hands, and a little help from his friends. He had an idea that would be the defining feature of modern zoos: a zoo without bars. George Mottershead was born in Sale Moor, now part of Greater Manchester, here at number 33 Lindau Terrace on the 12th of June, 1894. In 1902, when George Mottershead was 8 years old, the Boer War had just ended. To celebrate the victory, his father Albert brought George and his little brother Stanley to Manchester for a day at the zoo. They came down these very stairs and headed this way. Come on, it's only a few miles. Bellevue was a wonderful diversion for all. It had attractions for young and old alike. Children especially loved to see the monkeys and elephants and begged their parents for treats to feed these gentle giants. But George stood in silence, shocked and repelled, without understanding why. The smell of the elephant enclosures is still in living memory. Some may remember the poor elephant standing in a foul-smelling building, its face pressed against the iron bars, pushing its trunk through to ring a bell, prompting people to reward it with treats. George had no idea what an elephant's natural habitat should be, but he knew this wasn't it. Confused by his emotions, he walked among the rows of small cages of monkeys and chimps, unamused by their antics. Later that day at home, George went to his own collection of animals. George, like most boys his age, had scooped up tadpoles and newts. He even had a collection of beetles, finches, and cockatiels. He satisfied himself that he had done the best he could to replicate the habitat he thought these animals would enjoy. Pleased with himself at supper, he boasted, "When I grow up, I'm going to build a zoo." Everyone thought George had done well and laughed at his enthusiasm. But nobody heard the most important part of his plan. While they continued their laughter, he murmured, "A zoo without bars." That's only the beginning of the story. There were many hurdles and setbacks for George along the way. Luckily, we know how the story ends. George Mottershead built his zoo without bars, and Chester Zoo is now the benchmark by which all other zoos are judged.
George Mottershead, founder of the Chester Zoo, was born in Sale Moor in 1894. In 1902, he was taken to the Bellevue Pleasure Ground Zoo in Manchester to celebrate the ending of the Boer War. He was so disturbed by the animals being kept in cages, he stated that when he grew up, he was going to open a zoo of his own and there would be no bars in it. Quite a dramatic statement for an 8-year-old boy. Despite opposition from local residents, Mottershead was granted permission to open Chester Zoo in 1931. His zoo without bars continued to expand, even accepting elephants from a circus during World War II. He was born at 33 Lindau Street, just over that away, but it's a small residential road and it was decided his blue plaque would be better served here at 131 Northenden Road, Sale Moor Village. The family moved here during the winter of 1912-1913, above what was then Seymour Mead's grocery shop. It was here, aged just 18, that George opened his own school of physical culture, a man well ahead of his time. I guess this was the beginning of what we would now call bodybuilding. So the next time you're walking down a street in the UK and you see a blue plaque, take a moment to stop and look up and read it. You never know what fascinating piece of history you might find.